turn you over to the guest of honor.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to read 3 poems as well. And the first one I was going to read a fairly simple one, and then I decided to complicate things by reading a more difficult one. I don't know whether that's a good idea after what we've just experienced, or all that richness. You know, I'm trying to find how to put my glasses on here. I'm still needing to untangle myself sometimes. Oh, that's what it is. I'll leave my sunglasses dangling there so I don't keep them fiddling. Okay, this is a poem called Blur, and it's for
Dad.
Don't take them off, okay. Otherwise it gives up. Yeah, sure. Sorry about that, everyone. Thanks. Okay, it's a poem called Blur, and it's Blur spelt with 2 R's, and it's for H.D., who was a famous. Oh Lord! this is turning into a comic act. Right now, how am I going to do this?
Fix it. Let's fix it.
That's all right. I can manage.
Can you read?
Okay. So, in order to put this in focus, I want to quote. Yeah, okay. I'm glad you got it. William Carlos Williams, a famous modernist poet, said that the object of poetry, or of a poet, was to see the thing itself without forethought or afterthought, but with great intensity of perception. And that's an aesthetic that I've tried to follow most of my writing life. But in this instance, we're dealing with H.D., who was a different kind of personality as a poet, although she and Williams were students together at the University of Pennsylvania. And Williams has a wonderful chapter in his autobiography about H.D. rushing about in a huge rainstorm and saying things like, "Rain, rain, come, beautiful rain," and so forth. And he ends up the chapter saying, "And believe me, it rained plenty." Anyway, so Blur for H.D. And what I need to make a couple of comments about it. That it's the idea of seeing the thing itself with great intensity of perception. I've decided to follow H.D.'s spelling and to offer a poem which has no meaning and no story, but is a whole bunch of images seen with great intensity of perception or whatever, but pushed together and blurred together in a kind of a dance. So that's what happens in this poem. And here we go. And towards the end of the poem, it mentions an Ouija board, which is a board used by apparently at spiritualist seances to get messages, and it's done with letters and numbers. Anyway, I thought I'd better mention that because it's in the poem. Okay. Here's our vocation, the gift of writing. Her gift, the sensitivity to fathom that blur should be spelt or spelled with double R. The figure dancing on the piano top merged and emerged at the far end of a field glass as it blossomed into the widespread arms of a wind-blown tree booming a dark sail. She dipped her white hands into the deep pool of the piano top, and notes came off the plashing keys like frogs from a black pond. Stock still, he watched the swift blur of her hands, albino in the blind spell of soundless depths, his eyes a flick of jade seen under water. Immersion, then suffusion, then emergence, bronze of his hair, and gauze green of her dress. A window frames a dove-grey sky, the black birds flitting across it like the writing of a quick wrist, sputtering hieroglyphics. Her spells at the Ouija board find flowers, his lips hibiscus, her larkspur. Protoplasmic, her tree spreads sail, the black piano top. A tall blue flower, she dances on green water, then rests, her limbs akimbo on the mossy rock, his stone hand poised to capture her insouciance. Thanks. I'm bumbling and stumbling through this, all right.